Hi, this is Elise Giammarco Carlson live with duo Daemonologie. I know the gentleman told you that we wouldn't be back for a few weeks because they're working on some new special things, but they've decided to answer one question just for tonight while we try out our new technology. So I am going to ask a question of the duo composed of Carl L. Johnson and James Annitto, duo Daemonologie. They're going to answer one question for you. Tonight, I'm wondering about the souls in purgatory. Are there souls in purgatory? Is there such a thing? And if so, how do they get out? Are they there forever? So, without further ado, here are Carl and James to answer that question.
Hello, everybody.
Hi there.
Carl Johnson and myself, James Annitto. Yeah. We are coming to you live tonight to test some technology. I hope you guys liked our intro. And if you watch this after the live, I hope you enjoyed the new intro. We're working on a few things. We also, it's almost done. I would say 90% done. I've been rigorously working hard on it. www.daemonologie.org.
It's a .org now.
Which is fascinating that we were able to get the name Daemonologie.
You think it might have been taken, but it's the way you spell it.
Yeah. Well, no, it's spelled like regular Demonology.
Oh,
Demonologie.org.
So I'm surprised that was available.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
You know.
So, Carl, Elise asked our question tonight. Can you reiterate for the people that are just joining us what that question was?
Elise asked us, what about lost souls as a concept? Lost souls, can that be? Can souls be, so to speak, trapped between worlds? Are they in purgatory? Where are they, and can they get out of there? It's like a jail, you know, for souls. Yeah. If a soul, what would trap a soul in between worlds, between heaven and hell, perhaps? Are they earthbound? What is this thing called purgatory? There's a religious definition for that, purging, you know, but it's basically about trapped souls.
Most definitely.
Are they lost? Can they get out? Can we help them get sprung? And of course, we can't answer that definitively. We can give opinions, and based on our experience and what we've heard from others, there is some evidence that souls can be trapped. That's why we're asking it. Is there some suggestions that souls, spirits, are lost and trapped and want to get out? They want to go to some other reality. They're somehow bound to this earth, I think. You know, they can't get away yet. I don't believe it's unfinished business. I just think some drama or some agenda held them here. And maybe it was sin, maybe it was bad experiences, but for some reason they are fixed to this world. And where do they go after that? One thought is that you can speak to the spirit and try to make them aware of their condition, that they are deceased in our sense, and they need to move on, move into the light, or whatever awaits them. You know, so I would say it can't help. I mean, it can't hurt, and it might help. If not reason to the spirit, try to gently explain to this. You're assuming there's a spirit that is aware, can understand you, and you say you need to move on. You know, you don't have to stay here. We'll pray for you. We'll talk of you, but you seem lost. You want to move on. You actually address it as an intelligent entity, and you offer prayers for it. Like I said, it can't hurt.
Most definitely.
You might be moving a spirit on. Many mediums believe you can do that. That there's a process where you can help the spirit cross over. I don't know. Is the spirit doomed in between worlds for eternity? Some people would say yes. You know, time is not the same concept in that reality.
Most definitely.
But purgatory, the concept, you know, the Catholic Church embraces a belief in souls being purged.
Judged.
Judged.
So.
And they are condemned to this purgatory for how many centuries, if you want to put it in, you know, in spatial time, lineal time. But eventually they will expiate this purgatory through indulgences. If you offer money to the church, if you offer prayers to the church, you know. But we're saying a different approach that perhaps a medium would take. Talk to the spirit. You know, if a ghost is hanging around and it seems inconvenient, if it seems to be now how do you tell? If it seems to be some personality in distress, if you're getting EVP that suggests it's lost and in distress, talk to it. Say, we're coming to you to try and comfort you. Please move on to whatever destiny awaits you. Don't be afraid. You can move on. leave what bound you, leave it behind and move on. That it could be effective. We may never know if it was effective. We can't know, but a medium could tell you that they're lost and they need to go into the light. What is the light? Is that necessarily a good thing? We think it's them going to heaven or whatever awaits them, you know. And maybe somebody who's comatose, or maybe somebody who's in, they're still living, their body is living, but maybe their spirit is stuck in that purgatory. And we would talk to them, and on some level, I think they hear us.
Yeah, definitely. That's actually a good concept.
It's disturbing, but it's interesting that a soul could be trapped in
but your body could still be alive.
But your body could be alive.
Yeah.
Like John Zappa said that about his uncle Ed Warren, when Ed Warren was, so to speak, vegetative. He was, he was basically comatose, but he didn't recognize people in his last years.
Yep.
And my brother asked him, where do you think Ed's soul is? And John answered right away, in limbo.
Yeah.
Limbo is another concept. Basically a repository for souls, but not going anywhere. So if a soul is trapped, pray for that soul. I don't know if we're supposed to, but what else can we do? Pray for that soul. Tell the spirit gently to move on. It may take a lot of times. It may take repeated efforts. But if the spirit stops showing up, then maybe you were effective. Maybe you got it out of wherever it was trapped.
That's interesting. I think purgatory is very interesting to me because I've heard many different concepts, in the catechisms.
Right.
You're approached by judgment. If you were a good person and you did good deeds, you might have sinned to some aspect. But if you, of course, went to penance and your sins were forgiven, of course, you would go straight to heaven. But if you were very sinful, eternal sin, mortal sin, and that was your daily life, then you would go to hell. And in some ways, that there would be that limbo where you would be judged. But we never understand how length of a period of time that is. Is it centuries? We don't know.
Is the judgment the same for every person? That gets vague. Like how do you judge what is pure evil? If somebody leads a really rotten life, you think the prescription is hell, of course. Definitely. But there are degrees, variations of what we conceptualize as evil.
But some people I've heard and used theories that are by theologians and people that are part of Christianity and other aspects of believing that there is an afterworld or underworld, that even Earth itself is hell, right? You've heard that, I'm assuming, that in some concept people believe that Earth is hell. That's why the demons are here.
I hear that on an almost daily basis, the lady I'm caring for at home, This is hell here. This is our purgatory right here.
But some people believe that, though. Some people believe that because we are physical and soul being, this is where our judgment takes place. This is where wherever as a living being, this is our purgatory. If we make bad decisions, we're directly going to hell. But this is not necessarily what I believe. But this is what people encapsulating what people do believe in.
Encapsulating what people believe.
I don't know necessarily if this is purgatory. I know that in some capacity there are lost souls that can't go because
our research would suggest that, bear that out. Yeah. There are souls that are trapped and lingering.
And this movie, I forget the name of the movie, like Bones or something like that. It was a little girl that was killed, murdered, and she got to her family and basically told her family where her body was. Like she was lost. So in
another movie where that theme was The Sixth Sense.
Yeah, Sixth Sense as well.
Willis,
which is a situation where if something traumatic happens, they stay here because their stories untold. So that's a fascinating approach as well. Is that some sort of purgatory? Is that what purgatory is? Like you can't go on until there is absolution or solution?
I think there's got to be something to it. Why do we see these ghosts? Why do they look at us? Why do they seem further than like they want something from us? Like I spoke to a young lady last night. She messaged me about drawing on my so-called expertise. She saw an apparition along a road near Great Road in Lincoln, and she saw this woman in white at the edge of the road. Now, is that a lost soul? And this doesn't seem like a happy ghost. She felt it was malevolent, malignant, So, I mean, we can try. We don't know, insufficient data. We can try to move the spirit along. Mediums are supposed to be proficient at that. Maybe we can consult them.
Yeah, most definitely. I think it's a different concept, of course. So we have to be careful on what medium you approach and how you approach them and how you diagnose that situation by then crossing over. But I think in the same token, if it is a lost soul, they do need to cross over. it has to be, of course, of that soul's volition. We can't forcibly cross something over, especially if it is.
No, if it's going to work or it's not going to work. I think we have to proceed upon a premise.
Yeah.
Assume that there's a spirit that can be helped.
Yeah.
Can be helped. The first EVP I ever recorded, we recently had the anniversary of that. It was August 23rd, 1973. And that voice, and I didn't know spirit could communicate through an audio recording. Never heard of that. Played back the recording, friend of mine talking with me and playing some music. Replay the recording and we hear, "Carl, help me." We had to speed it up to understand it. Speed up the recording, accelerate that sound. And it says, "Carl, help me, help." That certainly indicates a spirit in distress, but I didn't know what to do for it. I still don't.
Interesting.
Don't know.
I think also one topic I want to hit on before we leave, and this was like to answer one question that Elise presented.
Takes 15 minutes to answer one question.
Oh, especially we could probably hit upon this topic for hours on end. There's so much discussion. But one thing I'd like to hit upon is pop culture, because a lot of people can understand, even though there's misconceptions, it is entertainment. One thing that you said to me about people being physically existing, like they're in life or they're in a
but their soul is not quite, in their body.
That's some form of astral projecting in a way, because if you watch the movie Insidious, right, in that concept, the person goes out of their body, travels, and they're trapped. Their body still coexists there in like some limbo state, but their soul is trapped until their soul can get back to their body because it's being oppressed and suppressed by this very evil entity. But in that same token, you could be in a comatose state, like a medical-induced coma, and you could be maybe in the astral projecting state too, which is
some evidence for that, because people start to see the apparition of the living person. Just don't bury that body until you're sure. It used to happen.
Do you have anything else to hit upon with this topic? I think it's a very hard thing to answer short, but I think
it's one of the toughest questions we've had.
Until you die, you really won't know, right?
I'd like to think we find out, yeah. But it is something. This is a viable topic,
it is.
Because we're dealing with the most profound mysteries of creation, the mysteries of life and death. For us, they are.
Yeah.
And where do you go?
Yeah.
There are no definitive answers, except I am sure there are trapped spirits.
Yeah.
And these are the ghosts. Sometimes they seem happy. Sometimes they replay aspects of their lives. Yeah. But they're usually just wandering around and they seem lost. So perhaps talk to them.
I definitely agree. I think there's some concept of it in some form or fashion. I've experienced it. I know people that do crime profiling for police departments, and unless they were truly on the dot, or they really had their abilities, they were able to help find missing people, either deceased or alive. So I think that there's that possibility. So I definitely think it's interesting. I think it's a concept maybe we'll talk about at a later date more extensively.
And by the same token, if we receive an answer through a recording, how do we trust it? What do we know? Is the spirit aware of what it's saying? But if we get an answer that makes sense, that's worth the research right there.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. So guys, like I said, we'll be back in a few weeks. We wanted to do one spurt question answer just to test the technology.
And we're starting with a top shelf question too.
Yeah. So if you guys see on the bottom, of course, on the stream, Duo Daemonologie is who we are. www.daemonologie.org. And one of the cool things about our website is not just home to demonology articles, a demonology forum, a paranormal glossary.
Yeah, it's expanding.
It's expanding. But if you don't have YouTube or Facebook, or you're on the go and somehow you cannot access social media and can access a webpage somehow, you can also watch our stream live on our website now. So if you go to demonologie.org/pod or -podcast, whatever that is, podcast,
it'll look for us, you'll find it.
You'll go right to that website and you can play it anytime we're on live through our website.
So what he's really saying is you can't avoid us for long. You can try, but we'll be out there.
And before we go, we want to say all good night with Mama Elise, our manager.
Thank you so
much. Good night. Good night, everybody.
Form that Mona Lisa floating in the dark. Yeah.
I'm out here with the moon.
That's the moon in the background. Look at it. It's gorgeous. Yeah.
Is it lycanthrope? Is there a werewolf behind you?
Nah, this farming. It's getting close to that.
Everybody, have a good night, and we'll see you next week with one question answered as well. We'll keep doing that until we come back at a full episode. All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.